All right, let's talk about something huge. We need to figure out how we're going to feed a planet that is very quickly running out of space. And the answer? Well, it might just come from a totally radical new way of farming, one that literally turns agriculture on its side. And look, this isn't some far-off science fiction scenario. This is the reality we are staring down. Our population is absolutely exploding, but the amount of farmland we have to work with? It's not growing. So, if you can't build out, where do you go? Okay, so before we jump into the wild solutions, we first need to get a handle on the sheer scale of the problem we're up against. And honestly, the numbers are kind of mind-boggling. Get this, by the year 2050, it's predicted that a staggering 80% of us will be living in cities. Now, think about the logistics of that. How on earth do you get fresh food to all those people in dense urban centers, especially when the farms are getting farther and farther away? And it's not just about where we're living. The total number of people on Earth is set to swell by 3 billion. That's 3 billion more mouths to feed, which puts a kind of pressure on our global food supply that we have never seen before. So, if we were to try and feed everyone using the farming methods we have today, we would need to find an extra billion hectares of new farmland. To put that in perspective, that's an area about 20% larger than Brazil. It's land that, quite frankly, doesn't exist. And here's the kicker. This chart shows we've pretty much already hit our limit. We are using over 80% of all the land on this planet that's even suitable for growing crops. And what's worse, if you look at our track record, we've basically ruined about 15% of it through poor management. The bottom line is, we've run out of room to expand. So, if we can't go horizontal anymore, some really smart people are starting to ask, why not go vertical? And that brings us to this incredible idea, the skyscraper farm. The concept is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. We're talking about multi-story buildings right in the middle of our cities, designed from the ground up to grow food in these perfectly controlled environments. It's a total reinvention of what a farm even is. And this, right here, this slide just brilliantly illustrates the logic behind the whole idea. I mean, think about it. For centuries, we humans have built our homes upwards, into the sky, to shelter ourselves from the weather. And yet, our food, the very thing that keeps us alive, we just leave it out in the open, subject to droughts, floods, pests, and we just cross our fingers and hope for the best. So the question is, why don't we give our food the same protection we give ourselves? The promise here is just, well, it's transformative. The people who back this idea, they see a future with a stable, local food supply, cities that are revitalized, and maybe even a chance to let the ecosystems we've damaged finally heal. And when you really start to dig into the details, the potential advantages are just incredible. It starts to sound less like a practical plan and more like, well, a farmer's utopian dream, really. Okay, just imagine this. Inside a vertical farm, it's always the perfect growing season. You get year-round crops with zero failures from floods or droughts. There are no pests, which means no need for pesticides or herbicides. Everything can be grown organically. And because the farm is right there in the city, you basically eliminate all the fossil fuels we burn on tractors, plows, and shipping food across the country. Oh, and here's a really cool little bonus. The whole system is designed to be a closed loop. Any plant waste you can't eat gets composted, which creates methane gas. That methane can then be used to generate electricity. So, believe it or not, the farm could actually end up putting power back into the city's grid. It all sounds pretty perfect, doesn't it? Almost too perfect. And like with most grand visions, there is one enormous catch, a problem that could threaten the whole idea. So after hearing all that, the question has to be, what's the catch? What is the one fundamental flaw in this farmer's paradise that nobody has quite managed to solve yet? It all comes down to one thing, light. A regular, single-story greenhouse gets to use the best free energy source there is, the sun. But the second you stack another floor on top of it, poof, you've blocked all that natural light. A 30-story farm would need almost entirely artificial light to work. And that right there is the Achilles heel of the whole concept. The amount of energy you'd need to power that many lights 24/7 is just immense. As one expert put it, it would be prohibitively expensive unless we had a source of incredibly cheap, renewable energy. And right now, that's more of a dream for the future than a reality. So, with this massive energy problem hanging over everything, you have to ask, what does a more realistic future for city farming actually look like? Is the whole skyscraper farm idea just a dream for another day? And that leads us right to what most experts think today. While the vision of glowing towers of food is amazing, the consensus is that a much more practical first step is to just use the massive untapped real estate we already have, our city rooftops. They get that natural overhead sunlight for free, which solves the single biggest problem. And so that's the big question we're left with. The pressure to innovate how we grow our food is very real. But will the future of farming be this radical leap into the sky, or a much more grounded, practical step onto our roofs? The answer is going to shape what our cities of the future not only look like, but taste like too.